Hi. So I just wanted to ramble about one of my favourite women's wrestlers in the entire world, and that is Jamie Hayter. And just how I think her year's been handled so far. I think, just to get out the way, Jamie Hayter, for me, my personal opinion, should have been the one to beat Tony, and that's kind of my main thing about this entire year. I feel like the Owen run for Jamie and how tight that final was. Bear in mind, Double or Nothing's Owen Cup final was definitely really tight for both men and women. But I think Jamie really got hurt by how it went in terms of just to back it up for a sec. So the whole thing about the Owen Hart Cup this year was obviously if you won the cup, you get the title shot at All In against the men or the women's world champion. And the final for that year was Jamie Hayter versus Mercedes Moné, and Mercedes Moné obviously went on to win and have the match with Toni Storm at All In Texas. Great match. And I just, for instance, I've not that there's anything wrong with Mercedes. I've already made my feelings on Mercedes well known on here, and I'm a big fan of Mercedes. I just think in that Owen, Athena beating Mercedes made a lot of sense, and I think a lot of people could agree. I was surprised they didn't go with Athena and Mercedes as a singles match on that card anyway. I think that's the biggest problem for me with All In Texas, that there wasn't a lot of women's matches in that entire card besides the main one, so that's kind of that. I feel like, from what come out after it, obviously Mariah May was Toni Storm's one of the best women's feuds, possibly the best women's feud ever. And Mariah obviously has left AEW to go be Blake Monroe in WWE. And apparently there was talks of Mariah facing Toni again, which I kind of didn't like that idea anyway, but whatever. And apparently that messed up a lot of the plans for All In. But I still think, personally, the option was to have Jamie Hayter win it, and Jamie Hayter face Toni at All In, regardless if she won or not. And then Mercedes versus Athena still exists. And that's not like, bear in mind, I don't blame them at all for doing Toni versus Mercedes. I thought that makes complete sense. It's possibly the two biggest women's wrestling draws they've got. And one of them's definitely both of them are going to go down as all-time greats as women's in wrestling, 100%. And I just feel like people really try and, I feel like Jamie Hayter's just this little cusp away from being a genuine superstar. I think she's definitely, since she's come back with the 70s inspired look, I think that's phenomenal. I think she looks great. I think that suits her, makes a lot of this really distinct. I think her wrestling style's really fun to watch. I think she's very hard-hitting wrestler. I think she can get you behind with a passionate promo. Look how she announced Blood and Guts this year. Everyone loved that. And I just think, just in general, Jamie Hayter just needs that small push. Not small push, but that little leg up to be like, not that she's not great already. Just give Jamie Hayter a true one with the belt, and I think she'll blossom into one of your company's top stars, and I really think she's that good. I think with Jamie Hayter, the history with Toni Storm was there to make sense. I feel like a lot of people pointed that out in the Owen run, and I feel like not a lot of people campaigned for Mercedes, Hayter to win over Mercedes and the Owen one, like they obviously did with Ospreay and Hangman, and that's kind of expected. And again, not that the Mercedes call was a bad call. I just personally think that Jamie Hayter was the more interesting option, and honestly, I think that could have been a better, not underdog, but you could have tied the timeless Toni Storm stuff to a nice little bow. Not that they would have ended it by any means, no, definitely not, but history of Toni and stuff that kind of works out. Because obviously Saraya, Paige is not there, and Harley's off doing her own thing at that point. It's kind of hard to... Jamie feels like the right one to do it. I feel like Jamie was the right call. Now, after this wasn't my only problem with Jamie Hayter's booking this year. Not that it's been bad. Obviously, she's been booked in the women's tag tournament and went out the first round with Queen Aminata, which I didn't have a problem with. A lot of people were kind of upset with that, but it kind of made sense. It was a freshly formed random tag team between them and the Sisters of Sin. And, kind of made sense for the established tag team to go through. With Queen Aminata, I wasn't against it. I just thought that was the obvious call for me was to give her Alex Windsor, two British wrestlers, but I don't have a problem with her and Aminata. They kind of had that run-in help with each other, they were clearly friends. I feel like also the team, with Statlander winning the belt, she was in the match when Statlander beat Toni, which was a huge surprise, great match, huge deal. And obviously they have the Tekla stuff going on. So Jamie's had stuff go on. It's not like she's not been... but she's been ignored, no. And Jamie has that issue with the visa, like Pac does, and a lot of foreign wrestlers, Rio and obviously Pac, mentioned, that they kind of struggle to stay consistent. I don't know what it is specifically. It's something to do with visas, I do know that. And obviously fitness. And Jamie, for me, kind of hurts her momentum with that. It's not her fault, obviously. But I just wish that was something we got, because she returned recently to save Ty Mello on Collision this week. And that's what clicked in my mind. I just thought to myself, personally, I would have Jamie Hayter poised in the position to end Mercedes' TBS run. I feel like the feud with Mercedes, I think this doesn't get a lot of credit for this year. Mercedes and Jamie Hayter's feud this year was excellent. I thought how they handled that, how heated it got, in terms of where they couldn't even stand next to each other. You know, they couldn't be around each other. There was a lot of heat in that. And it just got invested to me. It was really investing for me. That's why I thought Jamie could have won. I feel like Statlander being the only person to pin Tony and Mercedes so far in AEW is a very big deal. And I just think I don't want to say I want Jamie to have that, because I'm a big fan of Statlander too. I love Chris Statlander. I'm so happy she's champ. But that's a great point where Statlander, since becoming a champ, has elevated a lot in her confidence, her stature, everything about her. It's kind of like, you know, she just fits that role perfectly, and a lot of women will. But I just think Statlander will just still, like, Statlander's always going to be Chris Statlander. Like, there's not a lot of change, and there's not going to be a lot of change for Jamie Hayter either. But I just think Jamie Hayter will. I think Chris Statlander, in terms of with like the general public and AEW fan base, is probably about here before the title win. I think Jamie Hayter's kind of here now, and I don't want to say I don't like that, because Statlander deserves it. She's probably Mrs. Consistent on that entire roster, women's wise, and I just feel like Jamie Hayter could be higher than where she is notoriety and everything wise. I really would like Jamie Hayter to get that push. Like I said, she hasn't really had that much going on in terms of like belt pursuits wise. I thought they were going to do Jamie versus Statlander straight away. I thought that was going to be Statlander's first feud with the belt, and I hope they really run that. I think Statlander should be going after Jamie. I think that could be a good feud, but obviously, you know, they've helped each other out, saving Ty Mello, so that's going to be a whole thing. Obviously, Tekla stuff's going on. I don't really feel like we got the blowout to that. Maybe that's because of, obviously, maybe that's coming, essentially, because of the run out with the Sisters of Sin and stuff. And honestly, I feel like the women's division for AEW, just as a whole, is very tight at the minute, because you cannot ignore what, Marina Shafir is about to be doing. I think Marina Shafir will be world champion in next year. That's another video. Megan Bain's stocks are ridiculously rising. You've got the tag belts now, which, honestly, I think they're going to go to them. And there's like, I don't want to say, this is the first time recently where I feel like Mercedes holding the TBS belt has kind of limited the division, just because it's getting so tight. And there's very few women in AEW who don't need the belt. Obviously, Tony's the main one. Mercedes is probably the other, but obviously the gimmick, you know, she kind of needs it, but as stature-wise, she doesn't. And I just feel like Jamie Hayter could have benefited from one of those belts, and I just think one of those belts is going to go to Marina Shafir at one point, and probably the other will go to Megan Bain at some point too. So it's just kind of, and then that's not even including people like Tekla, like Megan Bain, like Mina Shirakawa, like Alex Windsor, like Rio again. You know, there's so many women around. The women's roster for AEW is phenomenal, and it's a great thing. I just don't want AEW to kind of forget how... I don't want Jamie Hayter to get lost in the shuffle, essentially. I feel like Jamie Hayter's had great matches. That Mercedes one, aforementioned, that four-way match for the title this year. She had a great one with Julia Hart, and I don't think Julia Hart's the greatest of wrestlers either. And obviously the Blood and Guts match this year, I thought she was excellent in too. So just everything... I honestly just hope they really give Jamie Hayter a push. For me, what would be a great call, if they don't give her the position to basically take the TBS belt off Mercedes eventually, I would love it if her and Aminata continued as the tag team, depending on how long Aminata's injured for. And then, because I think Megan and Marina will win the belts, that it could kind of become full circle, where they'll obviously be heel champs, they'll dominate, and then as that goes on, Hayter and Aminata team up, and obviously, you know, develop that chemistry a lot more, and there you go, they win the belts. You know, that could kind of be a good point to do. Stuff like that. I feel like Jamie Hayter's just... I just want Jamie Hayter to have that consistent time in development, and I just feel like it'll just work out, right? And I just feel like it's getting stinted a lot of times. Like, it feels like I see Jamie Hayter retain more than I see her, you know, wrestle, and I kind of hate that. Not because I hate Jamie Hayter. I kind of made that very clear. Honestly, I just want Jamie Hayter to have a push, win a belt, and stuff like that. I feel like, one, it's because she looks like me. She doesn't. She's much better looking. But also, she's just a phenomenal wrestler. She's one of my favourites. I just feel like that Owen run I thought that was the right way to go. And I was kind of not upset again. I just feel like the other decision was much more compelling, much more interesting, right? And I kind of want people to kind of just start talking and acknowledging about Jamie Hayter, because it feels like she is becoming lost in the shuffle. And I kind of don't want that to happen. Just because, again, this is a phenomenal wrestler we have. She's been with AEW from near enough to start. And the problem is, I'm talking about Jamie Hayter right now. Willow Nightingale still exists. And, like, if that's not a woman who should be in the world picture and champ at this point either, I don't know who is. This is the problem we have with the women's division. It's so good. And you've got, for me, two standout women, Willow and Jamie, who, in my opinion, should be champs by now. At least should have been. And Willow probably will take it off start. That's another video. But, I don't know, Jamie just seems like out of the picture and doesn't really seem like there's any way to get back in there. But obviously time will tell. So yeah, what's your opinion on Jamie Hayter as a wrestler? What do you think of her year so far? And do you think Jamie Hayter should be winning the world titles or the TBS title? What would you give Jamie Hayter? What do you think's happened with her year? What's your overall opinion on her? And honestly, what's your favourite match of Jamie Hayter's this year? Obviously, mine will be the Mercedes match, and I think that was the best part of the year she had. But also, just what's your opinion on Jamie? I would really look forward to hearing this one because, again, one of my favourites on the roster.